My girlfriend was using me for a green card, so I turned the tables on her. If you had told me 2 years ago that the girl I thought I was going to marry was just using me for a visa, I would have laughed in your face, because back then I was head over heels for Sophia, and honestly, I thought she felt the same way that we met at a friend's housewarming party. She was beautiful, long dark hair, accent that made every word she said sound like poetry, from Brazil originally. Living here for just over a year, we clicked instantly, talked the whole night, about music, travel, family, dreams for the future. She told me how hard it was moving to a new country, starting over, being far from her family. And me? I ate it up. I've always been the guy who falls fast, the fixer, the let me take care of you type. So when she opened up about how lonely she felt sometimes, how hard it was to make real connections here, I leaned in. Hard. Our first few months together were like something out of a movie. Weekend trips. Late night drives, cooking dinners together at my place. She'd send me long, emotional texts telling me how lucky she felt to have met me, how I made her feel safe. She'd cry when talking about how hard her life had been back home, how she dreamed of building a life here. And every time she got emotional, I'd hold her, tell her she wasn't alone anymore, that she had me. God, I was so naive that we moved in together after just 6 months. Everyone said it was fast. Friends warned me to slow down. Even my mom raised an eyebrow, but I defended it. When you know, you know. That's what I kept saying. And for a while it felt right that we spent holidays together, met each other's families on video calls, talked about getting a dog, even joked about baby names. And then, out of nowhere, she brought up marriage. It started subtle, little comments. You know, if we were married, it would be easier for me to stay here long term. Or, I'm always so scared about my visa renewal. What if I had to leave? What would happen to us? At first, I didn't think much of it. I knew immigration stuff was complicated. And yeah, I loved her. So when she cried about how stressful it was, when she said she couldn't imagine life without me, when she whispered, marrying you wouldn't just help me, it would make me the happiest girl in the world, I started thinking maybe it's time. But then things started feeling off. I'd catch her texting late at night, smiling at her phone, then quickly locking the screen when I walked by. Our intimacy changed. She got distant, pulled away during conversations, always had excuses for why she couldn't spend the night. I started noticing that she'd only really turn on the affection when the topic of marriage came up. She'd be cold for days, then suddenly extra sweet. Right after getting an email about her visa status. First, I told myself I was paranoid, that I was overthinking, that she was just stressed. But the more I watched, the more the pieces stopped fitting. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, I'd never snoop. But that night, something in my gut told me to look, and when I did, my whole world flipped upside down. The message was from a friend of hers. In Portuguese, but thanks to Google Translate, I didn't need long to understand. It said, only a few more months, girl. Once the papers go through, you'll be freed, and oh, more fake smiles. And below that, another message. Keep him wrapped around your finger until then. You're almost there. I felt like the air got sucked out of my lungs. My hands shook. I scrolled up, more messages, jokes about how gullible I was, how she was doing what she had to do, how she'd fake cry whenever I got suspicious. I put the phone down, sat on the bathroom floor, and stared at the wall, heart pounding, stomach turning, realizing the girl I thought I was going to marry didn't love me. Never did to her. I wasn't a partner. I was paperwork. A means to an end. A walking, talking green card application. And in that moment, I made myself a promise that I wasn't just going to walk away, that I was going to make her regret ever thinking she could play me. Because Sophia had no idea what I was capable of. After I read those messages and felt that first wave of betrayal hit me like a truck, I wanted to scream. Wanted to confront her right there in the bathroom, soaking wet and wrapped in a towel. Wanted to shove the phone in her face and say, explain this right now. But I didn't, because something told me that if I went off too soon, she'd just spin it, cry, deny, gaslight, tell me I was misunderstanding. And honestly, after seeing how good she was at lying, I didn't trust myself to win that fight. Not without backup, not without proof. So I swallowed the rage, buried the heartbreak, and decided I'd play along. act like everything was fine, until the perfect moment to pull the rug out from under her. For the next few weeks, I became an actor, smiling during dinner, laughing at her jokes, holding her hand during Netflix nights. All the while, I was documenting every sketchy text, every slip-up, every fake tear. I took screenshots, recorded audio when she started guilt-tripping me about marriage, saved copies of her emails about visa deadlines, even took photos of her phone when she left it unlocked. It felt wrong at first, like I was betraying her trust. But then I'd remind myself, she was never really mine to begin with. This whole relationship was a transaction, and the only person who'd been betrayed was me. I started digging deeper. Late at night while she slept, I researched everything I could about marriage fraud, read blogs, watched videos from immigration attorneys, joined Reddit threads where people told their own horror stories. I learned how serious it was, that if caught, she could lose her visa. Be deported, barred from re-entering the country for years. And suddenly, my heartbreak started to feel a lot like motivation. Because if she was willing to play with my heart and my life, I had no problem playing with her future. I checked the calendar. Our appointment with immigration was exactly 6 weeks away. The meeting where they'd ask us questions as a couple, verify our relationship, test how real we were. Normally, that's when couples freak out, worry about getting dates wrong, about seeming nervous. But me, I was calm, because I wasn't going there to prove we were real. I was going to end this. Over the next month, I let her think everything was going her way. When she talked about wedding venues, I nodded along. When she suggested engagement photos, I smiled. When she mentioned starting the paperwork for joint bank accounts, I agreed, but never actually filed anything, all while adding more and more to my evidence folder. The real turning point came one Friday night. We were watching TV, and out of nowhere, she got a text from a number she didn't save. Curious, I casually glanced over the preview on the screen. Can't wait till this is over so we can finally be together for real. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face still, calm, pretended I didn't see, pretended I wasn't already planning her downfall, because now it wasn't just about the visa. She was cheating too, and that made what I was about to do feel a whole lot more justified. I spent that whole weekend compiling everything, screenshots of her lies, proof of her other guy, recordings of her laughing about how easy I was to manipulate. I even filmed myself explaining the timeline, walking through every detail, just in case. Because when the day of our immigration interview came, I wasn't walking in there to protect her. I was walking in there to end the game, for good. The morning of our immigration interview, Sophia was glowing. I'd never seen her that happy, that energized. She wore this pastel blue dress she saved for special occasions. Had her hair curled just right, light makeup, just enough to look effortless. But what got me the most? That smile. That fake, sugary, calculated smile. The one she always used when she wanted something. The one I'd fallen for too many times. And as I sat across from her at breakfast, watching her sip her coffee like this was just another fun milestone in our love story. All I could think was, by the end of today, you're gonna regret every second you spent lying to me. On the drive to the immigration office, she kept rehearsing answers out loud. Where did we meet? When was our first date? What's your favorite food? I played along, gave all the right answers, laughed at her jokes, kept my voice steady. My breathing even. I'd practiced this too, for weeks, because if I slipped up, if I let the anger show too soon, I'd lose my chance. And after everything, there was no way I was walking out of that building without blowing this wide open. We got called in. A small, windowless office. 2 chairs. 1 desk. 2 officers. 1 took notes. The other asked the questions. Sophia sat close to me, hands resting on my knee like we were high school sweethearts. Every time the officer asked something, she jumped in first. Our first date was at that little Italian place on 3rd Street. He loves pepperoni pizza. We binge-watch Netflix shows together all the time. Her energy was through the roof, overselling every answer. I sat there, nodding, smiling, backing her up, but inside, I was counting down the seconds. Then the officer asked, "Have either of you ever been in a relationship with someone else while being together?" Her grip on my knee tightened. I could feel her nails dig into my skin. But she didn't flinch. "No, absolutely not," she said, so fast it almost sounded rehearsed. The officer nodded, made a note, then moved on. I waited until near the end, right as they wrapped up the standard questions, right as the officer said, "Okay, last thing, do either of you want to add anything before we conclude today's session?" I took a deep breath, sat forward, and said, "Yeah, actually I do." Sophia froze, her hand pulled away from my knee. Her face went pale. I reached into my bag, pulled out a thick envelope, dropped it on the desk. The officer raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "Proof," I said, "that this entire relationship is a lie." I looked at Sophia, dead in the eyes, for the first time in months. I didn't feel small. Didn't feel manipulated. Didn't feel like her puppet. I felt powerful, free. And when I started speaking, I didn't hold back. I walked them through everything. The text messages, the secret conversations, the lies, the fact that she had another guy waiting for her. The second she got her paperwork finalized, I showed them screenshots, played audio clips, handed over timelines with dates and receipts. Every single piece of evidence I'd gathered. Sophia's face went from shocked to furious to desperate. She tried interrupting. "He's making this up. This isn't true. He's bitter. He's just trying to ruin my life." But it didn't matter, because the more she talked, the more tangled she got. The officers listened, took notes, asked follow-up questions, and with every word I said, I felt lighter, like I was peeling her hands off my throat, one finger at a time. By the end, the lead officer stood up, looked at both of us, and said, "Thank you. We'll be following up shortly. Sophia will be in touch directly." And just like that, it was over. We left the room. She didn't speak a word to me in the parking lot, didn't cry, didn't scream, just climbed in her car and drove off, fast, like she couldn't get away from me fast enough. But it didn't matter, because the truth was finally out, and Sophia had no idea what was waiting for her next. The first sign that things were moving faster than even I expected came 3 days after the interview. A plain white envelope showed up at our apartment door. Official government seal, her name on the front, marked confidential. I didn't touch it, just watched from the kitchen. As she picked it up, I could see her hands shaking, even from across the room. She stood there in the hallway reading the letter, her face pale, eyes wide, breathing shallow. And when she finally looked at me, there was no more fake sweetness, no tears, no playing the victim. Just pure panic. She packed a small bag that night, didn't say a word, didn't even look me in the EY morning. She was gone, left her keys on the counter, left her favorite clothes in the closet, left the framed photos of us still hanging on the wall. It was like she vanished, but I knew where she went. Her friend's apartment across town, the same friend I'd seen her texting late at night, the one who encouraged this whole thing, the one who sent her that infamous message, "Just keep him wrapped around your finger." That same day, I started getting texts, mutual friends, people from work, even acquaintances I barely talked to, some subtle, "Hey, heard about what happened, you okay?" Others, more direct, "Bro, is it true? She was using you for the visa?" And then a few, "You didn't have to go that far. Man, that's her whole life you're messing with." I ignored those. That if people still wanted to believe her, let them. I wasn't here to argue. The truth spoke for itself now. What I didn't expect was how quickly word spread. Someone leaked parts of my evidence. Screenshots started circulating. Her messages, her laughing about me behind my back, her plans for after she got her green card. By the end of the week, her entire friend group knew. I heard from a coworker of hers, someone she used to hang out with all the time. They told me that Sophia was spiraling, crying at work, leaving early, ignoring phone calls. People unfollowed her, stopped texting back. The girl who used to post selfies with captions like "manifesting positivity and love now," radio silence. Her Instagram stories, gone. Her TikTok, deleted. I even checked her LinkedIn, currently seeking new opportunities. Yeah, I bet. Meanwhile, I slept better than I had in months. For the first time, I could sit on my couch, scroll through my phone, and not brace myself for some new manipulation. No fake tears, no guilt-tripping texts, no sudden bursts of affection, timed perfectly around her next visa deadline. Just pieced out a week later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. Immigration Services. They wanted a follow-up interview with me. Alone. I showed up 2 days later, sat in that same small office, and this time, I didn't hold anything back. I gave them everything I hadn't had time to say the first round. Walked them through every lie, every manipulation, every calculated move she made. I handed over printed documents, USB drives full of evidence. And when I finished, the officer shook my hand, said, "Thank you for your honesty. This will help us make our decision." I walked out of that building, feeling like I'd just dropped a wrecking ball through the life Sophia tried to build on my back. And for once, I didn't feel guilty, not even a little, because this wasn't revenge. This was justice, and she earned every second of it. 2 weeks after my solo interview with immigration, I got the notification. Another plain envelope, this time addressed to both of us. But when I opened it, her name was at the top, bold letters. Notice of intent to deny residency, pending further investigation of marriage fraud. There it was, in black and white. Official, undeniable. Her visa, hanging by a thread, and suddenly, all the fake smiles, all the late-night manipulations, all the guilt trips and fake tears felt like distant noise, because finally, there were consequences, real ones. That same day, she called me. First time since she disappeared from the apartment. I let it ring, didn't answer. Then she texted a string of frantic messages. "Please, we need to talk. I didn't mean for this to happen. You're ruining my life. I'm scared. You're the only person who can fix this. And finally, if you love me, you'll help me." That one almost made me laugh. After everything, she still thought she could pull that card. An hour later, she sent a voice note. I sat on my bed, staring at the screen, before finally hitting play. Her voice was shaking, full of fake vulnerability. "I know I made mistakes, but we had good times, right? You know I cared about you, maybe not in the way you wanted, but I did." I paused it right there, deleted the entire thread, blocked her number, blocked her on every app, every platform, every email address I could think of. I even flagged her old email as spam, because I knew how she worked. If I left any door cracked open, she'd find a way back in. But just in case, I forwarded all her desperate texts and the voice note straight to immigration services, labeled it "Continued attempts at manipulation and contact post-interview." Let them see for themselves. Let them add it to her file. In the weeks that followed, the updates slowed. I didn't hear much, but I knew how these cases worked. Slow, thorough, final. A month later, through a mutual friend, I heard she'd officially lost her appeal. Her visa extension denied. Her case closed. Her stay over. The last I heard, she packed what little she had left and flew back to Brazil. No big goodbye. No social media farewell post. Just gone, like a bad chapter finally ending. I won't lie. Part of me wanted to celebrate. The TO post some petty quote. The TO text the friends who doubted me with a big told you so. But I didn't, because honestly, the silence was better, knowing that she was halfway across the world and that her plan, her game, her entire manipulative storyline collapsed right in front of her. That was enough. And me, I started over. New apartment, new routines, new mindset, wiser, stronger, less trusting, but also less willing to ever let someone like that back into my life again. Because Sophia taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes the best revenge is finally living free. Without them, forever. After everything that happened with Sophia, I couldn't look at relationships the same way. Not for a long time. At first, every smile from a stranger felt fake. Every compliment felt loaded. Every flirty text made my stomach twist. Because somewhere deep down, I kept waiting for the hidden agenda, for the moment when sweet words would turn into leverage, when affection would turn into control. And honestly, it made dating almost impossible. For months, I didn't even try it out. I focused on myself, therapy, hitting the gym again, rebuilding my confidence, catching up with old friends I'd pushed away while I was caught up in her web. And when I did start talking to new people, I paid attention to much more than I ever had before. Now, I noticed the little things, the subtle manipulation tactics, the guilt-tripping disguised as vulnerability, the way someone's story changes depending on who's listening, how fast they move emotionally if someone goes from "nice to meet you" to "I can't live without you" in 2 weeks, red flag. That if they get weirdly possessive, before we're even serious? Red flag. If they start twisting my words, making me question what I remember. Huge. Blinding. Red flag. And it's not just in dating, friendships, work relationships, even family dynamics. I see the patterns now, the gaslighting, the emotional blackmail, the way manipulators isolate you, little by little, until you're standing there, alone, doubting your own instincts. Never again that I've learned to trust my gut that if something feels off, it probably is that if I catch myself making excuses for someone over and over, that's my cue to step back. Because healthy people, they don't make you feel like you're going crazy. They don't weaponize your kindness or your loyalty. They don't make love feel like a transaction. The biggest change? I set boundaries now. Firm ones that if someone crosses them, I don't negotiate, that I don't second-guess myself, that I cut the cord before the damage starts. Because Sophia taught me something that no book, no podcast, no therapy session could ever teach. How dangerous it is to ignore your own intuition. And yeah, there's still scars. There are still moments where I wonder, it's something I did. Could I have stopped it sooner? Why didn't I see it earlier? But then I remind myself, manipulators are good at what they do. That's how they survive. They make people doubt, question, overthink. But me, I'm done questioning. I know what I lived through. I know what I survived. And moving forward, I trust me, fully, unapologetically. Finally, if you're listening to this, and deep down, you're already wondering, is my partner with me for the right reasons? Let me say something I wish someone had screamed in my face months ago. If you're asking that question, it's probably because your gut already knows the answer. People like Sophia, they don't start with obvious lies. They don't wear a sign that says, "Hi, I'm here for the benefits." Not you. They start with charm, with vulnerability, with flattery, with stories designed to make you let your guard down. They make you feel needed, special, like their entire world revolves around you. And when they sense that hook sinking in, that's when the real manipulation starts. It looks like this: sudden urgency. We need to get married soon, or I'll have to leave the country. Guilt trips masked as affection. You don't love me enough to help me with this. Turning every hesitation you have into proof that you're selfish, uncaring, cold. And the worst part, they'll sprinkle just enough real affection, just enough good days to make you doubt your suspicions. But here's the truth. Real love doesn't come with ultimatums. It doesn't feel like a ticking clock or a transactional agreement. And if you constantly feel like saying no will cost you the entire relationship, that's not loved. That's leverage. You're not their partner. You're their project, their stepping stone, their ticket to whatever goal they're chasing. Whether it's a visa, a place to live, financial security, or just control. If you're sitting there scrolling through your phone, reading texts that feel off, go back, read them again, line up the words against their actions. Ask yourself, when was the last time they did something for me that wasn't tied to what they needed from me? If you're struggling to find an answer, you already know, and I get it. Walking away is hard, especially when you've already invested time, emotions, plans for the future. But trust me, staying costs way more, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even legally. You don't owe anyone your future. Just because they made you feel guilty enough, you don't have to save someone at the expense of saving yourself. Because when it all falls apart, and it will, you're the one left picking up the pieces. So please, if any part of this sounds familiar, start documenting, start pulling away, start making a plan. And when you're ready, walk, run, disappear, do whatever you need to do. But don't let them rewrite your story. You're worth more than that. Way more. If you'd asked me back when Sophia and I were together what love felt like, I probably would have given you some cliche answer. It's about sacrifice. It's about sticking it out through hard times. It's about doing whatever it takes for the person you care about. And back then, I believed that. I believed love meant always giving the benefit of the doubt, always forgiving, always staying, no matter how many gut feelings told me to run. But now, after everything, love feels different. It feels lighter, quieter, safer. The first person I dated after Sophia, it took me months just to agree to coffee, even longer to let my walls down. But she was patient, no pressured, no guilt trips, no emotional roller coasters. When I canceled a date last minute, Because I was feeling anxious, she said, "Take your time. Your peace matters more." And that sentence hit me harder than I expected, because it wasn't manipulative, that wasn't a setup for a later argument, wasn't a future bullet point in a guilt speech. That it was kind, genuine, no strings attached. And when we did start seeing each other regularly, I found myself doing things I hadn't done in a long time. Laughing, without that little voice in the back of my head wondering what she wanted from me. Having conversations without feeling like every answer was being mentally logged to be used against me later. Setting boundaries and having them respected. It was new territory. And yeah, it terrified me at first. But little by little, I adjusted. That I'm not saying I'm perfectly healed. There are still moments when a delayed text makes my stomach drop, when a joke feels like a hidden jab, when I overthink. Because somewhere deep inside, part of me still expects the mask to slip. But now, I talk about it out loud. I tell the person I'm with, "Hey, this is a leftover fear. Nothing you did, but I need a second." And you know what? The right people, they understand. They don't punish you for past trauma. They hold space for it and help you build something new. More than anything, I trust myself again. If something feels wrong, I don't ignore it. If someone tries to manipulate me, I catch it early. If love starts feeling like a transaction or like I'm auditioning for someone's affection, I walk away without hesitation, without looking back. Because after Sophia, after the lies, after the manipulation, I promised myself, never again. Never again will I let someone treat me like a backup plan, like a stepping stone, like a temporary means to an end. I deserve real, honest, mutual, and moving forward. That's all I'm accepting. Nothing less. One of the hardest things to admit is how long I let it happen, how many times I bit my tongue, how many nights I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I was overreacting, how many red flags I painted white because I wanted so badly for it to work, for her, for us, for the version of love I built up in my head. But the truth is, I lost myself in that relationship, bit by bit, day by day, until one morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the guy staring back at me. I was quieter, more anxious, always on edge, second-guessing every decision, every word, every feeling. That I'd let someone else's needs, wants, and manipulation turn me into a shell of who I used to be. And the worst part, I thought that was normal, that being drained and constantly stressed was just part of being in love. But now I know better. Now I understand that love doesn't feel like walking on eggshells. It doesn't feel like auditioning every day just to be enough. It doesn't involve guilt as currency or silence as punishment. Real love feels safe. It builds you up. It doesn't tear you down. And when conflict happens, it doesn't turn into psychological warfare. It turns into communication, understanding, growth. There's a certain kind of power that comes from hitting rock bottom emotionally, from realizing you survived something that could have broken you, and standing up afterward, a little battered, a little bruised, but stronger than you've ever been. That's where I am now. I carry this lesson with me everywhere I go. I in work, I in friendships, I in love. If someone starts showing the same patterns, the love bombing, the gaslighting, the manipulative guilt trips, I walk away. No explanations, no second chances, because my peace is not up for negotiation anymore. Anyone listening to this who's sitting in that same spot I was, reading texts over and over, wondering if you're imagining it all, let me say this as clearly as I can. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You're reacting to someone treating you like less, and you deserve more, way more. Your self-worth doesn't need to be earned from someone else. It's already yours. And once you reclaim it, trust me, the way you walk changes. The way you speak changes. The way you let people treat you changes forever. And that is something no manipulator, no fake partner, no Sophia can ever take away from you again. That if you've made it this far, listening to me pour all of this out, thank you. Because honestly, telling this story has been almost as healing as living through it. That I spent months, maybe years, thinking I was the problem, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't lovable, that somehow I deserved to be used. But now I know the truth. That I wasn't too trusting, that I wasn't too kind, that I wasn't too naive. I was a good person. who crossed paths with someone who saw that goodness and chose to exploit it. And that says more about her than it ever will about me. My life today, it's peaceful, quiet in the best way. Late night anxiety attacks. Panic double checking my phone. Dreading the next conversation. I wake up and I don't feel like I'm on defense anymore. I go to work. I hang out with friends who actually cared. I spend time with people who want me for me, not for what I can offer them, not for what I can solve for them, not for what papers I can help them get. I still think about her sometimes. Yeah, not because I miss her, but because I'm grateful. Grateful for the lessons, for the growth, for the boundaries I never had before, because she forced me to rebuild myself from the ground up, and what I built is stronger than anything I had before. If you're listening to this right now, and you're in the middle of your own version of this story, please hear me when I say this. You don't have to stay. You don't have to keep shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's broken idea of love. You don't have to sacrifice your mental health just to avoid being alone. Being alone for a while is 1,000 times better than being with someone who's slowly chipping away at your self-worth. You deserve a love that feels like peace, like coming home, like safety. And if that means burning a few bridges along the way, so be it. Sometimes you need to set fire to your past just to light the way to your future. And me, walking forward without looking back, and trust me, it feels damn good.